All right, give me 1 minute. Let me tell you a story. It's a life-changing story. It was life-changing for me. Very likely to be life-changing for you. By the way, I got LASIK, so I don't have my glasses. It's kind of cool. First time since I was 17 that I haven't needed glasses to drive. So the story. If you want to, let me tell you who should listen to this story. If you don't want to do what other people do, if you don't want to have an average life, listen to this story. If you don't want to have an average life, listen to this story. Like Thoreau said, the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. What is called resignation is confirmed desperation. So most people in the world live in a life of confirmed desperation, okay? When I was 16, I realized life's basically impossible to live correctly. Everybody you meet, every adult you meet, life full of regrets. I don't care how old you are, people older than you look back at their life and say, I just want a do-over. But there's no do-overs in life. That's the problem. They say life's like a parachute jump. You only have one chance. You mess up the chance, there is no second chances. You hit the ground and you fail. And most people, they say 80% of people don't like the three most important things in their life. Their career, how they grew up, and who they're married to or who they're attached to. Friends, family, their social circle's not right. Income's not right. They don't like where they live. They don't like the routine. They don't like the 9-to-5 grind, like all this stuff. So I was 16. I realized that I was a little bit ahead of the game. And I started thinking, I was like, how can I not be like everybody else? Everybody else I see has the same regrets. They hate their job. They don't make enough money. They feel isolated. They're depressed. They're not traveling enough. They're not happy. They're not free. And so what dawned upon me was, why don't I just ask all the people that have way more experience what the solution is? But I bumped into a problem with that because you can't ask people who didn't succeed how to succeed. Like if you want to know how to win at basketball or football, your best person to talk to is someone who won a championship. If you just ask the average person, just because they're older doesn't mean they know anything. In fact, older can just mean cynical, and in a way you know less because you're not open to new ideas. So my first test didn't work. I just started asking people all the solutions to life, like what I should do for my career, how I should make money, and I was more confused than ever. So then I bumped into this mentor a little bit later, this guy named Alan Nation. He said, no, Ty, the secret in life is to ignore 99 out of 100 people, but when you find the one person who actually knows what they're talking about, like actually listen. So I was like, that makes sense. So the real secret is knowing who to fully ignore and knowing who to fully listen to. And the crazy thing is you might have to ignore like someone close to you, like your parents. Just because you're born to your parents, that's just fate, randomness, you could say in a way. It doesn't mean you were born to the wisest people that can give you the best answers, especially when it comes to making money. I'm like, I grew up, I remember, it's funny, in this story that I'm telling you, the story continues all the way to my life now. Last month I had a guy in my house named Tillman Fertitta. He's a billionaire. He's worth 4.9 billion. The Forbes list just came out. He owns the Houston Rockets. He owns the Golden Nugget casinos. He owns 600 restaurants, and he has 60,000 employees. And I'm working on a big deal. I just bought a huge company. I bought a company that's doing $740 million in revenue, and I bought it after I talked to him. So last month I talked to him. This month I bought the company. And I asked him specific questions that only that guy could answer. The only person I know a handful of billionaires. I know a handful of people, not just billionaires, but people who have like, they've pulled off what everybody wants in life. They've got like the trifecta. They've got everything, you know. They call it triple threat. These people have it. I'm not saying they're perfect. You could dissect anybody's life and find stupid stuff, but this guy gave me insight that no college could give me, no university, no degree, none of my friends growing up, none of my family growing up. So I think back, I'm 16 years old, I'm totally lost. I start asking everybody, that doesn't work. I meet a mentor, he says, be more selective in who you listen to. 1 out of 100 rule, I call it the 1 out of 100 rule. And really, I think the rule's more like 1 out of 100,000 or 1 out of a million. And this guy told me, Fertitta, this is just an example. Now, in my point in my life now, I know quite a few people like this, but there's not many of them in the world. And when I was young, the problem was I had access to nobody with answers. Nobody. And so I went through life and I stumbled here, and I'm looking back, all the things I'm doing now that I love about my life, not my life's not perfect, but all the things I do love, I could have done. I wasted 10 years. And I promise you this, if you're watching this, if you don't understand what I'm saying in the story, you will waste 10 years of your life. And you don't have to waste those 10 years. The only thing you can't get back is the years of your life. So you look at your life now, I promise you, you're behind, just like I was behind. And I'm still behind. But I now have a shortcut, a way of finding answers. So let's just say you hate your job. Let's just say you want to make more money. I remember the first time I figured out how to make $100,000 a year. Before I was making zero. I literally had less than $100 in my bank account. And I started listening to some people. I listened to this guy named Corey Rudel. Never even met him, but I bought books and he had this course. And he's like, here's how you make $100,000. And within 9 months, I made $100,000. I learned to use Google Ads, generate leads. I was working for GE Capital back then. And it worked. Like everybody else, I was looking around me going, what's going on? And I realized they weren't being selective in who they listened to. They were just listening to their mom, their dad, their uncle, their friend, of friend. They're reading the magazine or newspaper. Oh, getting a little bit from Twitter and all that. Forget that. I became a hyper-focused listener. I became selective in who I listened to. At that point in my life, I just listened to Corey Rudel. I was like, yo, let me just follow what this guy says. Let me not listen to 38,000 people and get all confused. One person. And I remember I paid like $500 and I got this 3-ring binder in the mails when I was living in Raleigh, North Carolina. Get this 3-ring binder. I started reading it. I was living in a mobile home at the time, believe it or not. Basically homeless because I didn't have a bed. I was sleeping on a couch. Couldn't afford rent before I got this Corey Rudel thing, and I had slowly saved up a little bit of money. I had this little job, saved up like $500, bought this guy's training, and he trained me, and it worked. Sadly, Corey Rudel, I never got to think of him in person. He died in a car accident in 2008. He made so much money, he had all these Lambos and Porsches, and he crashed his Porsche and into a cliff, actually, in La Jolla, California. Sad story. But he changed a lot of lives, including my life. And that's his legacy, and that's, most people don't even leave a legacy. So, but that wasn't, like, so then I know how to make 100 grand. But then I was like, man, life has more. I don't want to live an average life. I want to be growing. I want to be doing new things. And so, nightclub business. I was like, I want to get in the nightclub business. But once again, who do I listen to? Do I ask my friends? I didn't know. I grew up with a family. Never met a millionaire. First time I met a millionaire. I never met a billionaire, obviously, growing up. Never met a millionaire. I remember when I was about 17, 18 years old, I was still at home. Our church, I went to a church called Covenant Church in Raleigh, North Carolina, my parents went to. And these people, the Parasos, they made $1 million in our whole family and the whole church. Because I grew up like middle class when I was younger, like lower middle class or even more on the poor side. But my mom got remarried. My stepdad worked at the post office, made $50,000 a year. So all of a sudden we're moving up. And then we met this family, the Parasos, that were millionaires. And I remember, but I was still like 17, so I never really learned anything from them. That was the first time I ever met a millionaire. And I got a little advice from him, believe it or not, but not much, because I hadn't really absorbed this way of selectively listening to people. So I then get a little bit older, start meeting sharp people, smart people, people who have the answer. Corey Rudel is one of them. Then I meet this guy, Giorgio Bataxias. He owns restaurants and nightclubs in Raleigh and Durham, North Carolina. So I went to him and I was like, hey, and he had this partner, Giorgio and Jay. I said, well, you guys teach me. And they started teaching. I remember the first thing they taught me about a nightclub. Keep it, don't make it too big of a nightclub where it looks empty. They're like, close the doors, shut some walls off, make the thing feel like people like to feel like they're in a packed place. You don't want a 2-pack where it's like fire hazard, but that little tip, you'd be surprised how many people don't know that. I started learning selectively. I didn't ask anybody. I didn't ask my friends, my mom, nobody. I just selectively listened to a mentor. That's the whole point of the story, by the way. And then I created 2 sources of income. I was making 6 figures here and 6 figures here. It's like, put those 2 together. I was like, wow, I'm making more money than anybody in my family. My dad's from Harlem. You know, his dad worked in a Subway. I'm not from multi-generations of wealth. I'm not from the Rockefellers, the Rothschild, JP Morgan, none of that, you know. And so my dad was in prison when I was born. Nothing. But by selectively learning, boom, I began to skyrocket financially and just in life freedom and happiness past my friends, past people I went to high school, past people that I didn't go to college, but past people who went to college and I didn't go to college. And all of a sudden I'm going, man, there's something to this. And I followed that selective listening to the right people my whole life. But now I raised the ante. Like I said, last month I'm meeting, you know, those of you who watch my videos, you see Mark Cuban, you see people like Steve Ballmer. You know, Steve Ballmer's now worth $52 billion. I had dinner with him not too long ago. I had a long conversation about the direction of my life in business. This is a guy who's $52,000 million. He's worth listening to. Each conversation like that shapes and molds and changes my life. And so what I'm trying to say to you is, if you don't have that in your life, forget what anyone tells you. A lot of people that don't know what they're talking about say, no, you can just learn by doing. Well, yeah, you do learn by doing. That's true, but so like if you want to learn to play basketball, you learn by actually playing basketball. Yeah, but every basketball player in history had coaches they listened to. Everyone, Michael Jordan, LeBron James. I've become friends with quite a few. Chris Paul's a good buddy of mine. He has had coaches his whole life, you know. I was just at a Laker game. I know Anthony Davis. He's had coaches his whole life. So yeah, you learn by doing, combined with being coached by people who know what they're talking about. You don't just go, nobody just goes and plays any sport. But when it comes to life, nobody follows that rule. That's why people's lives suck. People are awesome at sports, but most people's lives suck for one simple reason. Who are you listening to? Who are you listening to? And so if you could begin to do what Alan Nation said, is the secret to life is to ignore 99 out of 100 people. But when you find that one person who knows what they're talking about, do everything they say, your life will transform. It'll transform this week, this month, this year, and over the whole course of your life, however long you're here on planet Earth. I guarantee that. As long as you're listening, adapting, and becoming a learning machine. Now, let me just say, I'm not guaranteeing you're going to be a millionaire overnight, because most people you listen to that are smart, they'll tell you that's probably not going to happen. It happens fast for some people, but in general, you got to put a little work, a little time. But what I'm saying is you can transform your life, the direction of your life. You're trying to go north. Right now, you're going south. You can flip that compass, that direction, north, almost overnight. You don't always see it fill up your bank account right away. You don't always see your life go from drudgery, 9 to 5, drudgery to excitement overnight. But the direction can change faster than you can imagine. In fact, in many ways, the direction of your life changes in a blink of an eye when you make the decision to change your course. So I guess what I'm saying is I got lucky. For some reason, at 16, this thought came into my life that I need to figure out how to not just learn through trial and error. It's like Warren Buffett says, you only learn through mistakes, but there's no rule. They have to be your own mistakes, meaning just learn from other people's mistakes. You know, Tilma Fertitta, I was getting ready to buy a big company. This company did $69 million last month. I own it now. Well, I talked to him first. You can see I did an interview, a public one, but I had a private conversation with her too offline, and I'm like, hey, how do you buy? Because this is a guy who buys companies. Like he bought the Houston Rockets for $2.2 billion. He's qualified. So you need to be selective. You need to find who's qualified, and then you need to adapt. That's the 3 things that can change your life. Be very selective. Know who's qualified. So you have to know who's qualified, because a lot of people try to BS you and say, oh yeah, I'm qualified, blah, 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 I got an MBA, blah, blah. No, that's not what makes you qualified. You're qualified for what you've done. Like if you want to know how to lift heavy weights, you need to find somebody who can bench press 500 pounds. They're qualified. You can see it with your own eyes. It's like Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify. Oh, I trust you're an expert. Let me see you bench press. Okay, you bench press 500 pounds. You probably know a little bit about lifting weights. You want to make $1 million? Okay, let me see how you made $1 million. By the way, if people can't show it, it's probably not true. Tilma Fertitta is on the Forbes list. you can see. You can usually tell what people have by looking at their life. It's not, sometimes people fake it, and they say fake it till you make it, and a little bit of that. But in general, watch people for a year or two or three, and the truth comes out about where they are, especially financially.